Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build for the Raven Queen Patron for Warlock mod by GladoffelLp. This mod is now available on console, and it has a lot of really fun abilities with this. You get a Sentinel Raven at level 1, which is able to give your Charisma modifier to perception checks, and it can also give you the ability to see in magical darkness, so we don't have to take the Devil's Sight invocation, as this mod also adds in new Eldritch invocations to the game. We also get access to False Life and the Sanctuary spell, and things like Spiritual Weapon as well. I'm going to go with the Hex, as I find that works well, but having Sanctuary is kind of nice. However, this is going to use your Warlock spell slot, so it may not be the best option, and actually probably better for your Cleric to use it. You can swap that off if you don't like it. I like Armor of Agathis personally, so I'm going to go with the Hex and Armor of Agathis. As for cantrips, we're going to always be taking Eldritch Blast, kind of the main staple of the Warlock, but Booming Blade is nice as well. For our ability scores, I'm going to roll with a stat spread of, I like to have at least 16 dexterity, 14 constitution, and 16 charisma. This is going to give us a good armor class. You can swap your dexterity with constitution if you prefer. So at level 2, we get our Eldritch invocations, and there's the Chronicle of the Raven Queen hero. With your connections to the Raven Queen allows you to commune with the dead. This just gives you the Speak with Dead spell. However, you can get the necklace at the very start of the game to get this, saving us an option here. I like to get, obviously, Repelling Blast and Agonizing Blast are two of the best choices here. But we can also take the Devil's Sight if you want to have the Magical Darkness, even without the Raven or without that set up. And then we can take this at a later level. And there's another unique invocation once we make our way to level 5. Now for our extra spell, we'll be selecting Hellish Rebuke, I guess. Sometimes that can be good for picking up extra KOs. However, I guess Sanctuary is not really the best choice here. At level 3, we can take our Pact Boon. I'm a big fan of Pact of the Blade. You can go with Pact Tome or Chain if you prefer, but I think that the Blade is the best. Just giving yourself that action to do an attack or a spell is really great. And we can access again Spiritual Weapon or Silence. Spiritual Weapon doesn't upcast very well, so something to keep in mind. Now, one thing that's interesting is you don't actually get access to Shadow Blade, as that was added with patch 8, and this mod is from over a year ago, so that's something to keep in mind. You do get Hold Person, though, which is a great spell, Darkness, which fits thematically here, and also, again, Spiritual Weapon, which you can take, because that Maul can apply Dazed, so that you get the target gets disadvantage on their Wisdom save, so you can land Hold Person more freely. Level 4 extra cantrips. Friends is great if you're the face of the party or Bone Chill. Mage Hand actually has some utility as well with throwing health potions and water bottles. Now at this point, I think Darkness or Spiritual Weapon are the best choice, and Mirror Image comes in third. I like that one as well for the plus 9 armor class, although it doesn't upcast well. And once we get our ability score here, I think at level 4 our best feat is the ability score to Charisma, but the Alert feat is nice for the plus 5 to Initiative too. I just think that going with a higher Charisma is just great for weapon attack rolls and spell casting. Level of 5, we get our extra attack here, again, with that Charisma increase, allowing us to have a higher hit chance. We get access to Feign Death and Speak of the Dead, which, okay. We'll go with the Counter Spell and our Hunger of Hadar. Hunger of Hadar is another spell that does not upcast, so this is great at level 5, 6, 7, 8-ish, and then it starts to fall off a bit. But Counter Spell stays forever. This is a great spell. It's always useful. Now here is the Raven Queen's Blessing. So your connections to the Raven Queen allows you to prolong the lives of your allies. After landing a critical hit with your Eldritch Blast, you'll be able to heal one ally for 1d8 plus your Charisma modifier health points. Pretty cool ability. I'm going to take it. Might not be the best for our particular build, but it's a fun subclass ability. At level 9, we get the Soul of the Raven. As a bonus action, we can turn to a Raven to dash, disengage, or help, and you can transfer it back using your action. Not always going to be the best choice, I'll be honest, but it's a cool and thematic choice, and great for scouting. I want to mention that. It's probably not best if you want to pop into a Raven in combat, but yeah, I guess at level 6 we'll take our counter spells there. It's just a really good choice to have. Now we start to get much better spells at level 7. This is actually a really fun level because we get access to Ice Storm, one of my favorite spells. But what's great about this is it upcasts, and this creates a surface which our Ravens are not affected by, and we don't want to be affected by, so we got ways around that. But this is a really good spell to get access to, and you also have the option to take Death Ward, but don't. We'll then get access to some more Eldritch invocations here, and at this point, I think adding an Agonizing Blast, add that plus 8 Charisma modifier damage to our Eldritch Blast, so that's times 3. And now that we are, I guess, times 3 once we get to level 10. Now we're at this level here. I guess Spiritual Weapon is good. Misty Step, Mirror Image. Cloud of Dagger is actually not that bad because it's guaranteed damage. That can be a pretty useful choice. And for our feat at level 8, I think Alert's great at this choice. You're getting into some fights where you really want to go first, so we're going to roll with that. Now, we're going to go into level 9 here with another fantastic spell with Cone of Cold. This is great. So Cone of Cold, obviously very powerful. Gives us a new option in melee range, which we're going to be in melee range, so that's fantastic. We also then can take the Minions of Chaos. This is a perfect combo because we can use this before we get into a fight. You can even use a staff to give yourself a free version of this. The Water Elemental will deal or apply chilled to the enemy, which then makes your cone of cold deal double damage, which is really nice, as you can imagine. Level 10 gives us our subclass feature Raven Shield. You gain advantage on death saving throws, immunity to the frightened condition, and resistance to necrotic damage. Pretty fun. Necrotic damage isn't very common, but hey, we'll take it. At level, I guess we'll take the Hold Monster spell here for level 10. And then once we get to level 11, we get our Mystic Arcanum here. If you have Mistress spells, you get great options as well. Circle of Death, though. In a specific gear, you can hit a lot of enemies and debuff a lot of enemies at once. There's a lot of great items that'll actually apply debuffs whenever you hit multiple enemies. And due to this having a huge radius, it's great for that. That's kind of the purpose of it. You get a free one. You can use the Eye Bite here, but you then, for 10 turns, you're basically just going to be putting people to sleep. Not my favorite playstyle. Flesh of Stone and Create Undead are okay too, but Create Undead is probably the second best choice here. And then for our level spell here, Shatter, really your personal preference. We take Spiritual Weapon as a subclass unique spell. It's not going to be the best, but it's there. And for our Eldritch Invocation at level 12, we'll take Life Drinker, adding Charisma modifier damage to our weapon. It's pretty good because we got ourselves a +4, soon to be +5. And I guess for the last spell here, Shatter, because it can upcast. Nothing really great. Misty Step maybe, but yeah, there's ways to get Misty Step with items that we want to have. As yeah, now we have the Charisma at 20. And I'm also using the Kiss of the Scourge outfit mod here. And alternatively for, I guess, for different feats, you can go with the Savage Attacker feat or the Warcaster if you prefer. And since this class is actually pretty cold damage themed, we can go with some of the cold gear now. I'm using the Helmet of Arcane Acuity. This is going to help us with landing our spells. As we do melee attacks, this will build up our Arcane Acuity, giving us a +10 to our spell save DC and spell attack roll, so that when we cast a spell, we're going to land it. And this is great because we do good melee attacks, and you can actually use an arrow of many targets to stack this up fully. However, we aren't really that great with bows. Unless you're playing as an elf, you're not going to be able to really do that very well, but it's an option. And we're going to do melee attacks, so that's kind of where we're at. Cloak of Protection or Deathstalker Mantle for your Dirge. Now, I got the Ballast Armor on. You're likely going to want to use, in the early game, the Potent Robe. This is great. If you can't get the Potent Robe for some reason, you can go with some of the others. I guess Robe of Defense with Hunger of Hadar up. This is going to give you a bonus to your armor class. Really best available robes in the early game. And then once you get to later sections, you can use light armor. I guess you can use light armor at any point, but you're likely going to be having better results with robes if you can't get the Potent Robe, which will do you till the end of the game, unless you get the Ballast Armor. That's my personal preference, because Ballast Armor will deal with piercing damage. And we got a cold damage based weapon here with the Cold Snap, which works great because it's going to double our piercing, and it gives us cold damage too. Now, we also got the Winter's Clutches here. Whenever we deal cold damage, we apply 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost on the enemy. Then we also got the Disintegrating Nightwalker so that we don't slip, and that gives us Misty Step so that we don't have to burn through one of our 3 spell slots to do a little teleportation. Now, since we're dealing cold damage, I got the Snowburst Ring here doing a little 4.5 meter circle of ice below the enemy when we deal cold damage. You can also alternatively take your friend here, Shadowheart, give her the Drake Throat Glaive. It's going to have the elemental weapon, and then you can put cold damage on either your bow or your melee weapon, so you don't have to use the Cold Snap. Another good choice, obviously, the Orin Daggers are great too. These can be pretty powerful, and if we actually want to go all in, we'd probably use 2 blades here. So something like the Crimson Mischief in the main hand once you get it, because when you make an attack with advantage, target takes additional 7 piercing damage. That 7 damage is actually 14 because of our armor. You can go with Orin's Dagger in the main hand too, obviously, once we get down to this point. Belm in the offhand's great too for being able to do the perfectly balanced strike. And if we want to go all crazy on this, we're not going to put Frost in our bow. We're just going to go make sure that you pull out your melee weapon here. And then you're going to take your friend here, go with the elemental weapon, put the cold damage on there. This is great. You can do this on any class. I'm just going to do it for this build because I think it just fits thematically to do a little extra cold damage on both of our weapons when we're not doing an offhand attack, but also when we do a main hand attack. This pairs very well with the Snowburst Ring because we create a nice surface. They have to use their movement speed to get away from us, and they end up slipping and falling most times, ending their turn immediately. And then we can get away because we have these boots here, so it forces them to do something about that. We also have the Ring of Protection here, but you can also go with the... I really like the Radiating Orbs, but it doesn't fit thematically for this build. So Caustic Band for a little extra damage. Shadow Cloak Ring because you can use Darkness to boost up our extra damage. We also have the Strange Conduit Ring to do additional psychic damage if we're concentrating on a spell. Ring of Free Action, move around a little bit more, and Ring of Mental Inhibition. Whenever the target fails a saving throw, they get Mental Fatigue for 2 turns. That's pretty fun as well, but I like to go with I'm going to go with the Shade Cloaked Ring because we're going to be using a little bit of Darkness and Cold, because Cold and Darkness actually can stack on top of each other, unlike Fire and Darkness. I also have the Hellrider Longbow just for that +3 to initiative and advantage on perception checks. Always make sure to bind your pack weapon. This is something I get a lot of comments about, where being like, you're lying, you only get 1 attack with Pack of the Blade. No, you have to bind your pack weapon. Don't forget to do that. That's a very common comment I get pretty much every day or every second day, but just want to mention that. Now, George, our Raven here, this is what's going to give us benefits. It also has the extra attack there. So with the Deepened Pack, it can attack and use the Rend Vision twice, which is fantastic. So yeah, we got a Raven there. We got our Raven form. If we wanted to go into Raven form, so you can wild shape yourself there. For some reason, it's not working for me. It wasn't working the other day when I was talking about it in another video. So unfortunately, that's not happening. Now, we look really cool with our blades here in our Raven. The first thing we want to be doing in combat is getting our arcane acuity set up. Now, this is important because this is going to allow us to land our spells. We actually have a lot of targets in a very small area of effect. So sometimes you just got to do what you got to do and take them all out with this Cone of Cold. We can actually get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 targets in one go. So yeah, it would have been better to have our arcane acuity set up. But I set up difficult terrain here in a large area, and we were able to take out every single target except for 2. They now have encrusted with frost. I'm just going to go ahead and stab this target here, and that was enough to take them out. I forgot to turn off the dual wielding, so I'm going to attack them twice, and then create ice surface as well, which is great because this is going to make it hard for the enemies. Now, I guess I could do one last thing and just go ahead here with our final attack. I also have our water elemental here to be able to apply the chilled. And don't forget, Booming Blade is another nice option, especially on targets with high health. That was enough to take them out. That was cool. There was a bit of a delay there, but I want to try and drag the enemies through as much ice as possible. So I guess there's a target right there too. Whenever you are there, try to move around so that you're trying to get them to come towards you, but also slip on the ice. Now, the reason I don't mind Hellish Rebuke is sometimes it's going to be good because you can deal upwards of 60 fire damage. I'm not going to react here, but it can be sometimes nice. It's good to also save your reaction for a counter spell because sometimes that's going to be a lot more beneficial. And we got our first prone casualty there. That's exactly what we want. I don't need to counterspell that one. I'm fine with the elemental. We'll take this target out next. But yeah, those surfaces are great because they really mess up the enemy and they do weird things like use their bonus action to shove. This is perfect because this target I want taken out. With our main slam attack, it does additional cold damage, but applies chilled on the target. So when we hit them, they now are chilled for 2 turns, so they take double cold damage. So if we can hit them with an ice storm, it's going to deal the double damage in the cold aspect of it, and also Cone of Cold is going to get pure damage. Do not Hellish Rebuke the Erupting Cinder. Please do not. And we almost got another slip. So I'm on a fire surface right now, and I don't like that. I'd rather a cold surface, so I'm going to make my way over here to attack this target here to get my spell save up a little bit higher. I got hit multiple times last round, unfortunately losing all of my arcane acuity. We'll use that free crit to get a crazy boost to our damage. We created ice. They saved on it. Perfect. And I guess this is a weird situation where I might just have to use an arrow attack. This isn't the worst case scenario. We're not going to have a very high hit chance. We're not going to do any damage really at all. You can get lucky though. But the reason for doing that was actually to get our spell save DC up. Now we have it at 27 plus 10 for arcane acuity because that actually stacks up way faster than anything else. So perfect. Now we can actually go ahead with a more powerful spell. We're going to use Ice Storm and it's upcast too, so that's fantastic. This is going to create a difficult terrain in this area. We already took out the enemy we wanted to, and we just applied a bunch of Encrusted with Frost too and made it so that we can knock them prone. Now the whole battlefield is ice covered, and we just have our bonus action here left, so we can use anything that we need, like a spiritual weapon here. The great thing is a spiritual weapon is these can also grab aggro and move enemies around. Just be mindful, you're going to get a non-benefit from not being able to upcast it, so that's just something to keep in mind. But we might get lucky here with the ice surfaces. Again, we can drop darkness as a concentration here. I'm not going to use Hellish Rebuke either, because again, if they're standing on ice, it will melt it, so don't do that. Again, your water elementals here to just punch them and set up that chilled. The Raven's Curse is pretty fun though. This makes it so that we get advantage on attack rolls against the targets. Unfortunately, our Raven went down like literally this moment the battle started. That's just kind of the way that things go because the Ravens are not strong. Just 1 health, 1 hit, they down. Now we still got pretty decent arcane acuity, so I'm just going to drop an Ice Storm here. I can't get in a position to drop Cone of Cold. I'd much rather drop a Cone of Cold, but we were able to take out our target because that cold damage was doubled to 34, which is more than enough to take them out. Now I got a decision to make. This is not always the most ideal. Sometimes I can't make it back there, so I guess we'll just go with the good old-fashioned Eldritch Blast and just hope for the best. And we'll go. We got the advantage against that target, so that's great. And that was enough to take them out. Perfect. So there is the Raven Queen Patron mod for Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. That is the GladoffelLp mod. So yeah, incredible mod. Let me know your thoughts and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already.